Right. Okay. So we have on episode 8 here, we have Nick Elia. I am absolutely buzzing for this one because Nick's somebody that I've personally learned a ton about from. And Nick's probably one of the most high achieving previous setters in the space, as well as managers. And I believe now a partner at winitsales.com, which you should definitely check out if you are an appointment setter or an offer owner. Nick actually within 2 years working at, was it Sales Mentor, Traffic and Funnels? It was maybe a mixture of
Just
both.
traffic and funnels.
Traffic and Funnels, yes. Traffic and Funnels produced $5 million in revenue in 2 years. This is what most people do in their whole sales career. That's something that I haven't even got into myself, but Nick is one of the best as far as appointment setting, and so I'm so glad to have him here. So yeah, Nick, is there anything? I know it's quite a brief intro, but is there anything there that I missed that you feel is quite important to address with like experience and what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, before I jumped in at Traffic and Funnels, that was September 2019. So the industry looked quite a bit different then. There was different big players. There was definitely less like high ticket closer type offers, and that was really just coming about. I had a marketing agency, wasn't super successful. I was doing 5K a month, and I was living in Thailand and at the time, and that was a really nice income in Thailand. And then before I had moved to Thailand, I sold copiers. So sold quite a bit. I've sold for myself. Me and some buddies had a photo booth business in Thailand that was a major failure. So like I think even just outside of sales and outside of the internet marketing space, I have a good bit of industry, and I think that has kind of prepared me well to see, the results that I've seen so far in the space.
Absolutely. And as well, like I suppose with your perspective is quite unique compared to a lot of people that know about appointment setting, because obviously you speak with them on a daily basis. You've obviously been there and done it, been in the trenches as well. So like, what have you noticed in all of your years of experience with coaching and actually doing the thing that's obviously helped you to do well, and what you've noticed with the space currently for appointment setters?
Man, I was actually thinking about this. One, I love like the JD Daily, James Lawrence, um, messaging where they're talking about getting on the right offer. And I was really blessed when I started in this space by getting hired by Traffic and Funnels. They were doing $1 million a month when I started. There was already setters at that company making 8, 10K a month. So I had a lot to learn from. Um, and I took that for granted when I was on that team, and I just didn't have the perspective that I have now. So I think that's huge. The thing that I don't necessarily agree with is the fact that like somebody has to be doing exactly what you're doing, because I broke every record at TNF. I broke the daily set record, the daily close set record, the weekly set record, the weekly close set record, the monthly set record, the monthly close set record, the monthly revenue, the monthly cash collected, the monthly income. I broke every single record there. And if I had this idea of, oh, well, if somebody hasn't done it yet, it's not going to be done, then like I might not have taken that job with that philosophy. So I do think you definitely need to go into an environment where there's at least some moderate success, or at least some evidence that portrays to success happening. But there's definitely like some smaller teams, some 200 to 300K a month businesses right now that have solid margins, solid leads, and they just haven't found the right person to get them to the next level. And sometimes that's the missing piece. Now, I will say, a lot of people who are hiring for sales, they're shitty environments, they're shitty companies. You shouldn't go work for them, and you should know how to vet those. But it's not black and white in that just because somebody hasn't done it yet, it's not possible in this environment. I know that kind of went off tangent from what you had asked, but I think the environment is important. Getting under the right leader is important. Um, Having clarity and reasoning behind your vision and why you're here is extremely important, and I think lacks a lot in this industry. People want the 5K month, the 10K month, the 20K month, and it's an arbitrary number that has no meaning to them. When you ask them why they want that, they just don't even have an answer. They're like, I don't know. Sounds cool. It's like, okay, well, like, if you don't have a why, right? And this is what a lot of gurus talk about, this is what a lot of personal development people talk about. If you don't have the why, you don't you can't operate on values, you can't operate within boundaries, you can't operate with constraints. So people come in and they're like, I want to make 20K a month, but they don't have a reason to actually guide their decision making.
Well, they're also just like their decisions are made based on external forces influencing them in every corner, right? So if there's another
100%.
golden shiny object where there's less hours to work and 50K a month, that's probably their next thing, right?
100%.
So
It's just not
yeah,
meaningful to them internally. And I don't think people
absolutely.
spend enough time thinking about what they want actually and how they want all areas of their life to look, not just professional and financially, but like, how do you want your health to look? How do you want your relationships to look? How do you want your personal life to look? Um, and when you think about all five of those things holistically, it really pushes your decision-making process and your problem-solving ability. And you could start thinking a little bit more critically and planning better and making better decisions. And I think we lack that massively here.
For sure. That's so there's probably about three or four different things that I wanted to touch on with what you said. So you've made that very hard for me to ask my next question, Nick, to be honest. But I think you know what that's something actually is very important that isn't touched on very much is like the figuring out the why, right? Which I know for me, the way that helped me to figure out my why was going like layers deep into why until I literally found the root cause. But like
Yeah.
for you, what helped you with when you was on your journey figuring out well why the hell are you here? Because I think you made like 250K over like 2 years at traffic and funnels, right? Which is
Yeah.
a lot of money for a lot of setters. So, what was it that helped your why when you started there, or did you figure that out later on? Like, how was that process for you?
That's a good question. I think it was a few things. One, Taylor, who ran traffic and funnels, not Taylor O'Hare, Taylor Welch, he had something called the morning formula. I don't necessarily have a morning formula anymore, but it was a very in-depth, like vision type document, vision type board, if you will, that I went through every morning and I reworked constantly. Um, so that process, and it was pretty simple, right? Like it was just questions about how you want your life to look like in all of these different areas, timelines around those, why you wanted those things. And I don't think you need some crazy framework outside of that. It's like, what do you want? Make it specific. When do you want to buy? Make it clear. Why do you want it? Think about it. And if you ask
Just
those
thinking.
three questions and put enough time and attention and intention behind those three, you'll solve the problem. You'll figure it out. But the first step, right, like beyond, or sorry, I should say the second step beyond having just those questions, which are pretty basic, is put the time and intention behind it. That's what people lack. They don't spend time thinking about it. And if you
Well,
don't
that
spend time
that brings me
thinking
a
about it,
question
it's not
then.
going to come out. Yeah, go ahead.
Just thinking because like, and this may bring either it might be very complicated to answer or it might be too easy to answer. So, why do you think that so few people actually spend the time thinking about their vision and actually thinking about those things?
I think most people lack discipline. That's the first thing. They don't organize their time well and they don't put it onto their calendar and they don't honor their calendar. When I want to spend time thinking about my vision, it's on my calendar and I plan it out. That's the intention behind it. The next thing is they might avoid that because I think people are kind of just scared inherently, naturally of one, challenging themselves and pushing their boundaries mentally, and two, it's some fear of the future in some way, and it makes them anxious to think about the future. And then I think the third thing is like I think people just lack belief, right? They might just not believe that big things are possible for them, you know? So they just avoid even trying or avoid even thinking about big things that could be true.
Is that something you notice often with setters? Is that lack of belief? Because I know for me that was something I dealt with early on, especially
100%.
myself.
100%. A common question that I always ask setters when we're talking about their goals, and I always start with money, right? If you're a salesperson and you're not motivated by money at some point, or at least like really that's the number one motivator for the most successful salespeople I know. Now there's
Charity.
reason and there's reasons behind those monies, right? And those are the great ones. But like if I ask a salesperson on an interview or on one of our teams, what's your income goal this year? And they don't know, they're not going to be good. I've never seen a good one there. So we always start with that. Then we reverse engineer the plan and like the actual activity that is required and the conversion rates that they need to hit so we can measure it. And it's black and white. It's math. Nobody can argue with the math. Then once we have that plan, we have the target, we have the plan. The next question is, do you believe this is possible here? And if they say no, I'm like, well, then we either need to change the plan or you need to go to a different gig where you do believe this is possible. So I think just asking them, right? Like I just ask them straight up, do you believe? And if they say no, I might want to unpack that a little bit more and say, why? Like what part of this plan do you not believe is possible? But I think a lot of that lack of belief comes from the lack of clarity in the steps necessary to get there.
For sure. Definitely. And there's a lot of factors, right? But sometimes people just don't have that path laid out, or they see how nice something is,
Sure.
or somebody making the outcome, but then nobody knows how they've even done it, or the steps that they do take.
Sure.
So yeah,
And
I
that's a
guess
knowledge gap, right? And that's why I
yeah,
think it's really important to have like a leader and a manager at a company, or at least have some sort of coach that is guiding you and helping you with that plan. And it is black and white. And we could say within reason, if we want to get to point B, if we do this, and this at this point, and this point, and this point, and this point, we believe that within reason, we will get to point B. You need someone who has been there and can guide you there and can make that plan for you. And if you don't have that, you're gonna have a really hard time succeeding. So there's a few different
yeah.
pieces to the formula. And when you do have that knowledge gap and you don't know how to make that plan, you need support from someone that can help you there.
And yeah, I suppose coming back to your career at Traffic and Funnels, then, like, how important was that for you? Because of course, Traffic and Funnels had some of the. I wasn't there at that time, but I just spoke with Carson Cruz, who I'm sure you might know, and he spoke about how important it was with Josh Johnson leading the team and providing all of the support and systems there. Like, how important was that for you, being there and having all of that support? Like, what did that do for you?
I mean, it was massive and it was like ingrained in the culture that like vision was huge and having clarity in what you need to do day to day is like that is just the culture and that's how we operate. Right. So it got ingrained deep in my soul. And it is a part of my identity now for sure. And that is one of the good things that I took away from Traffic and Funnels. Like I think if you've been in the industry for a while, like you know the story of Traffic and Funnels, they went out of business, all this different stuff. One of the good things that I took away from that was the culture of clarity in the vision and clarity in the plan and intention and mindfulness around thinking about that stuff constantly and having it top of mind. And then I had great managers like Peyton Welch and Josh Johnson, who, if I put the time in and I did 80% of the thinking and the work for my plan and my vision, and I just needed help with the other 20%, they were always there to support me.
That. That. So the support was obviously very key for the foundations, and obviously now, like, you're at a point where you're a partner of a big company when it sales, and have done so much, for that vision as well. So, like, and I speak
I
to
wish we
appointment
were
setters
big.
about this.
We're pretty small, but we're getting there. We're trying.
I suppose it depends on what you think about as big,
Yeah,
right? Obviously, there's a
there's
big vision behind that
perspective.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes sense. And that's the thing. I think people look at appointment setting. I spoke to this about this with Carson as well, about how appointment setters are kind of looked down upon a little bit. Like, it's just an opportunity to transition into closing, right? And it's never looked at as an important role. So for you, how important was the role of appointment setting in helping you to get to a point where you're now partner of a business and you're really at the high level of things that maybe a lot of setters are trying to aspire to?
Um, Honestly, just being real, I think appointment setters work harder than 80% of the closers in this industry. straight up. It's a way harder job because it takes discipline and consistency and massive action, and closers wake up to calls on their calendar. Straight up. I think from a like who's better than who, the skill set of closing is harder. It's a much more sophisticated conversation. Actually getting those numbers on the credit card in a 45-minute call, that is very high skill, high value activity. But the consistency and the discipline that it takes to be a setter, I believe, is more than what is required of a closer. For me, I think it just taught me like hustle and grit, and I've kind of always just liked business. I went to a business school called Kelly School of Business, very corporate world. Like Mark Cuban went there, and like the CEO of like a ton of Fortune 100 companies have been there. So like I've always just been drawn to business, and I think that's helped me. I think me having businesses in the past and failing, I think me having a copier salesman job in 2015 and 2016, where I wore a suit to work every day and I drove around in a company car and I was literally selling like $3,000 copy machines to dentist office. I think that helped me a ton in terms of having like the gratitude for what the remote sales space is. But going back to the setting, dude, I think it just taught me like the value of hard work and putting your head down and following the process and being consistent. And that's what leads to results.
For sure. And thinking on that, of course, a lot of setters watching here are maybe at the beginning of their journey, maybe they're during, and it's kind of hard for maybe them to see the light through the end of the trees. So, like for appointment setters that are in that position, is there anything that you would tell them as far as, and of course, we spoke about vision a little bit and having that discipline, but is there anything you think would be an important message for them to understand in order to help them progress and get through what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I would go back to defining what that light is at the end of the tree for sure, because it's hard to see a light that you haven't like defined, right? And the beauty of it is it's twofold. One, like you could choose what that light is. And two, like the light is also probably always going to be moving if you're constantly updating your vision. Um, and then again, we kind of talked about this, like make sure you actually have a crystal clear plan and make sure you know who you need to become as a person to get to that light at the end of the tunnel. I think it's very easy to look at all of these external factors, and I'm not going to sit here and say that external factors don't contribute to the results you have in your life and where you are today. But the more you can constantly ask, like, who do I need to become? What is in my control? What can I do that I'm not doing to get to that? That's where I wish more people focused on personally. And I had another thought. Oh yeah. Also, yes, life is short. Yes, you might get hit by a bus tomorrow. Yes, you really don't know how much time you have. But dude, like play the long game, man. I'm 32. I'll be 32 this year. I feel like I'm literally just getting started. I
What do you mean
genuinely
by that?
I feel like I'm a 1 out of 10 in terms of skill set, what I'm capable of, where we can bring the business that we have. Like there's just so much more room to grow. And I think it's very easy to get caught in short term, month to month, quarter to quarter, even year to year thinking. And I'm at the point in my life where like I'm thinking 5, 10 years out. And it's hard to have that depth of vision. It still kind of comes back to the vision, but like play the long game. A year is not a long time.
Goes quick, absolutely,
It
100%.
goes super fast, man. And it's like, I just really don't think it's that long. I think people get into a setting role and they do it for 3 months or 6 months and they're like, well, I'm ready to be a closer now, or I'm ready for management. It's like, dude, like you've done 300K in sales in 6 months. Put your fucking head down and work for another 12 months, please. So
100%.
I think that like that lack of depth and that lack of long-term mentality, it plagues the industry. And it's because all of the marketing messages that we all came through promised 10K a month in 90 days and 20K and handle this objection and you'll be making 50K. It's like, this shit takes
And
time.
taking calls from the beach.
They can call them, it's like a lot of that is not real. And this shit
Mm,
takes time. If sales was easy, everybody would be making $1 million in their first year. It's hard.
100%. And talking about how hard it actually is, right? Because it is unfortunate where people get sold that dream. And even for like myself, hitting my first 10K month as a setter, that took me about a year and like 2 months, I think, something like that. Like it's like not even just the amount you have to work, but the level of development you have to have. And as you're going through that process, it's huge, right? There has to be a ton of personal growth from your side. Even if you think you come into this, and I had a year and 7 months of door-to-door experience, I thought I was the next best thing since sliced bread, quite honestly. Coming into this, I thought this is easy, just take calls on that. So this isn't work, like this is nothing. And I realized very quickly that I got exposed when I was at Sales Sniper, right? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of that internal work. So like, and if it's quite a personal thing, but as far as your own internal work, like what were some of the things that you struggled with when you was going through your journey setting, and then what did you have to, and I mean, what did you overcome, and what did you have to do to help overcome that, essentially?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first thing is like you got to focus on what's in your control. You got to constantly ask yourself the question like, who am I becoming? Who do I need to be? Right? And it's not where do I need to be or what, right? Like it's who do I need to be and who do I need to become? That's the first thing. And a lot of people struggle with that level of accountability. Next thing is like, what are the four things in your control? Right? Four things in your control for sales is what you do, how much you do of it, when you do it, and how you do it. That's it. You can't control what the prospects say. You can't control how much money the prospects have. You can't control what the closers do with your deals. You can't control what sets you get from the setters, right? Like focus on what's in your control and that's it. Obviously, be aware of the external factors that are also contributing and get good at influencing the change of those factors too. Don't deny that. But most people put 80% of their time, thought, and energy focus on external things and 20% on internal things. If you switch that around, don't neglect the external, but focus 80% on the four things that are in your
Yeah,
control and who you are
exactly.
becoming.
100. Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. I think then I remember, even as far back as the door-to-door days, whenever I was focused on somebody opening the door, slamming it, and telling me to f off like every couple of doors, or doing one of those long half an hour. You spend time with them. This actually, I don't want to get started with it. All those kind of things. A lot of those you can't really do much about. But it's when you focus on what's in your control, you can't help but be detached from the outcome because it's honestly not something to even think about or focus on. And so it's very easy to say, but it is one of those things that is hard to do
It
as
is really
well.
hard to do. It takes reps and it takes discipline and it genuinely takes like a leader or somebody that is mentoring you, whether that's a coach or a manager or a business owner, constantly repeating this stuff and
Mm.
ingraining it into your brain. It's not going to come from watching one podcast or one Hormozy video.
100%. And that's actually an interesting point I wanted to touch on, because sometimes when we look at new information, we always think when you learn it, you have it, or you understand it, you've grasped it, but
Not
you
true.
truly haven't. Like
No.
the more that we are reminded about something, the more we truly ingrain it, but not only just ingrain it and agree with it, but we actually embody it in our own communication and who we are and what we do. It then becomes a part of us. So,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm sure that being part of Traffic and Funnels, like you said, it was kind of a part of you with that morning exercise that you were doing for your vision and stuff like that. And assuming that that's probably given you the relevant foundations for what business that you have now. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess, I mean, let me know if there's anything you wanted to cover here with regarding what you're doing at Win It Sales, but like, what is it that you're doing there, and what do you hope to see happening in the next 5 to 10 years with your vision?
Good question. So what we do at Win It Sales, we are a sales management agency. We run currently 8 sales teams. We do a little bit of consulting. If somebody's not necessarily ready for us to run their sales teams, we'll consult them and help them get their sales teams to where they are ready for us to run them. And then we'll also from time to time do recruiting only. We have a massive recruiting pipeline. We have a Facebook group of 35,000 sales reps. We've invested a ton of money. We have 2 full-time recruiters. We run ads to generate applications. We have a recruiting pipeline of 4,500 reps with applications in there. Like, so if someone just does come to us and they are just looking to place a sales rep and we have the capacity to fulfill on that, we'll take those clients on as well. But at the end of the day, I think the 3 things that we do at our core are we find people, we find good and great sales reps, we develop good and great sales reps, and we retain good and great sales reps. And if we do those 3 things really well, that's our core focus is those 3 activities. Those are our fundamentals. Those are our shoot, dribble, pass. Those are our, driver game, wedge game, putting game, whatever you want to say. Those are our 3 fundamentals. We find, develop, and retain reps, we will be successful. For me, this year I want to double Win It Sales. We have 8 clients. I want to be at 16 clients by the end of the year. And then I would kind of just like to not necessarily double every month, but I do want to start getting outside of the high ticket space. I'd like to get more in the agency space. I'd like to get more in like the brick and mortar, like home services type space. I would like to get into the SaaS space. So I would like to see different divisions in Win It Sales because a lot for us is systems, processes, culture, repetition. That's what we're really good at. I'll be straight up blunt and genuine. I think there's better sales trainers out there than us. But I think in terms of day-to-day execution and organization and infrastructure, I think we're really, really, really good at what we do. So I think we can go take that infrastructure and those systems and that culture and those processes and put them in different industries. And if we can find good trainers that know those industries well, we'll be successful. But that's my big vision. Like I want 8 more clients this year. Our done for you clients, we have very tight relationships with them. 5 of the 8 have been with us for over 12 months. It's a win-win-win, right? If we get good reps in that sell for the clients, then all of us make money, right? And we work on a variable compensation structure. So we get paid when the sales reps get paid, when the businesses make money.
Yeah, and that setup's there to truly incentivize you to do as much as you can to help them. So it's always about having those structures that put you in an accountable position. Otherwise,
100%.
sometimes there can be that reliance on, oh, if there's like a base compensation, then we can just kind of slack off a little bit, which I know there's been quite a bit of a debate out there about, should you always, is a sales rep weak if they have a base or not, or, commission only? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Because that's been quite an interesting debate that I've been seeing.
I don't think it's dumb, to be honest. I think any sort
It's a
of
bit ego
black and
driven, I
white,
think.
I think any sort of black and white insight or advice has some sort of intention behind it that is usually like to benefit the person that's giving that black and white advice. Everything is contextual, everything is gray,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Like there is not one black and white thing out there that's a qualitative analysis. The only thing that's black and white is math and science. You can't argue numbers, you can't argue science. That's it. And even science in nowadays is changing constantly, right? But I think all of these qualitative takes of like, you're weak if you have a base, or man, you should only sell for 8-figure companies, or man, we should overqualify the leads, or man, it's just objection handling, and if you're really good at objection handling, or man, it's the skills and it's only the skills, or man, it's only the offer. Like all of that shit, it's everything all the time, and you need to train your brain to think more critically than a linear black and white thing that you read on Facebook. That's the way I see it. If you need a base in your life to have the security and stability that you need to pay the bills and take care of your family, then go get a gig that has a base. if you're willing to take the risk and go into a commission only gig and you trust in yourself and your skills and the company that you're going to make the income that you need to make on commission only, then go take that gig. But it's like, it's totally up to what you need and what you value. Some people value the security of a couple extra grand a month guaranteed. And there's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with that.
Mic drop. There you go. I think we'll end it there, Nick. So there's been insights from all different parts, but it's been honestly fantastic having you on. I hope a lot of you benefit from this. And if you have enjoyed it, please like the video. We want to spread this message as much as possible for appointment setters. Comment your takeaways as well. There's at least 10, 11 different points that I've got from this that I could probably comment myself, but there's tons there. So, definitely bring in your takeaways. Share the video to get the reach expanding. And of course, we've got plenty of other episodes coming. But if you do want to get in touch with Nick, or you actually become part of the recruiting pipeline, or even a business owner watching this that wants to partner with Nick, how do people access you?
Probably honestly, the best place to go is just my Facebook, Nick Elia, Nickelia. I think the slug is nick.win@sales, WINATSALES, nick.win@sales. If you go to my bio, I have a link tree there. If you click on that link tree, you can find all of the open positions we're placing for, the applications to work with us. I have a free setter course on there. We'll have more free content. There's a link to our Facebook group. There's a link to apply to work with us if you're a business owner. But just my personal Facebook profile, you can always message me as well if you just want to chat.
Perfect. So there we go. I'll drop that link below so you guys can reach him. And we'll leave it there. Let's move on to the next episode. Take care, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. See ya.